and I will find the proper screen to share. I always say we use Teams on our side, so moving over to Zoom always takes me a few extra minutes. As we're getting started, we could do some quick introductions on our side. I think everyone knows Kelly, but I know Tate is on the line as well. So do we want to take a moment, Kelly and Tate, just for everyone on the line?
Sure. For those of you whom I haven't connected with or weren't able to attend the demo live last month, I'm Kelly Manuelides. I'm your Ex Libris Clarivate Innovative Account Manager and Technology Consultant. And I've been with the company for almost 3 years now, and I live in Michigan and very happy to work with you guys. And I'm excited that you're taking this opportunity to review full ILS solutions as well as discovery options. So thank you all very much. And Melody, thank you for coordinating this. I appreciate it. And Tate, I'll tag you now.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be here. And thank you for this opportunity. As Kelly said, we're excited to share with you what we're doing kind of holistically across our library software solutions. I lead the academic library software sales team for the Americas. And again, pleasure to be here today.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. And thanks again, everyone, for joining. To introduce myself, my name is Stephen Gillespie. I'm a solutions consultant here at Ex Libris. About 15 years now. So I've held a variety of roles over the years. I've worked quite a bit with Summon and 360, as well as Alma, Primo, Leganto, basically the whole suite. So I know a little bit about everything, and I'm hoping today to show you some of the options we have here at Ex Libris to help meet all of your library's needs. I also wanted to mention I am a Wisconsinite as well. So I was born and raised in Wisconsin. I'm from the Milwaukee area. So if you know where Oak Creek is, that's where I went to high school. I went to UW Oshkosh for college and Wisconsin-Milwaukee for library school. And still have all of my family there. I live in Arizona now, but I still make it back to Wisconsin regularly. So always nice to talk with librarians about library stuff, but even more nice to talk with folks from Wisconsin. So excited to show you a few things about Summit today, but if you prefer to talk about the Packers or the Milwaukee Bucks for the next hour, I'm happy to do that as well. All right, well, we'll get started here. And like we said, feel free to use the chat if you have questions, or unmute yourself. And, would happy to keep it informal and learn more about your needs, and just so we can kind of provide the best recommendation for the software we can. And I see Paige is a fellow Panther, so yeah, thanks, Paige. Nice to see you. All right, well, I thought a good place to start, and I know that perhaps some or all of you have been on previous calls and we talked about Alma, so I thought a good kind of just starting point would just to recap what we've heard so far in the process. So, my understanding of the WISPALS consortium is you've got some shared content, shared processes, and shared systems. You also have some unique content, processes, and systems. And for this reason, choice and flexibility is key to you. Time savings, I think this probably goes without saying, but when you're looking at new software, new options for the library, saving time is key, right? Everyone knows that time is at a premium and you don't have a lot of extra time to do things and projects and so on. Third, you want to streamline the acquisitions processes. And again, this comes into that territory of some shared and unique processes when you think about the whole spectrum from selection to purchasing to activation of resources. Improved management of resources, right? Again, probably goes without saying. And you also noted that you're going to need support, training, and help along the way. Let me pause here. Is this kind of landing with everyone? Does this seem accurate? Is there anything you would add as far as what you want to see, or anything that is inaccurate about this screen?
I'll just pop in real quick and say I don't think there's anything, excuse me, inaccurate there. I think that hits major points, but there may be some folks on the call that have other things that they would like to see. So please chime in now.
And I'm happy to give it a moment here in silence on the call. So if anyone wants to type, the radio silence doesn't bother me too much. So yeah, if any, yeah, in particular, anything you want to make sure we talk about with Summon before we get started, feel free to jump in as well. All right, well, we'll move along. If anyone's typing, feel free to keep typing and we'll be coming back to it. So what I plan to show you today, give you a brief introduction to Summon. I'll highlight a few aspects that might be relevant for you as part of the WISPALS group. And then I'll do a demo. I'll show you the user interface, show you some examples, do some example searches, see what questions come up along the way. And then I can also show you what it looks like to configure Summon, to change options and so on. And then after that, I thought we could discuss the various ERM options you have. And ERM, of course, means electronic resource management. I think this is where some of the different options will come into play, right? If you've looked at Alma, you've looked at Primo, you look at Summon, there's a lot of different ways for things to work together. So I'm hoping to have a bit of a conversation there and see kind of what everyone's thinking about in terms of that. And then we can certainly do more show and tell as needed. And then we always have resources if you want to learn more. I always say that when we do presentations, if you're familiar with Ex Libris at all, we have great documentation, so I can always point you to a link if you're curious about any specifics on anything we look at. All right, so let me go ahead and all right, so here we are talking about kind of what I consider that discovery and library management software ecosystem. All right, so some of the key considerations you might be thinking about, obviously having extensive content coverage and meeting your user needs are always top of mind. We know that user expectations continue to evolve, so we always want to meet the user where they are and provide, a powerful library experience. And hopefully it's all low maintenance for the librarian. And on the left-hand side, you kind of see, how your systems work together today. Typically, that discovery service will sit on top. You have the ILS, in your case, Sierra, I believe. Then you also have a link resolver, a knowledge base, something else to manage e-resources, digital repositories, perhaps, libguides you can throw in there as well. It looks like most, if not all, of your libraries are using libguides to a nice effect. So all of these systems can work and play together in different ways. Now, when you put Summon into the picture, I'm sorry, and forgive me here, I know we're talking about Summon today, but you've already had the Alma demo. The Alma version looks something like this, right? Alma is a platform that can support all resource types. And we typically pair that with Primo V, which acts as sort of the front end to the library. And considering this model, this is truly one platform to kind of do everything, right? That's how I view Alma: print, electronic, digital, all your resources in one place, and then a lot of added functionality on. So, and I wanted to mention this because as we compare and contrast with what Summon would mean for you, a lot of this comes down to the management, right? And that full spectrum of managing the resources from purchase to acquisition onto activation, as I said. But for now, we are talking about Summon. So this might look something like this, right? So Summon is the discovery layer that sits on top. And this would allow you to keep Sierra, right? So Sierra still serves the functions it does today with regards to managing print items, being able to check items out, request items, and so on. And then we have associated services we call 360, the 360 suite, and that gives you the link resolver, the KB, and 360 core as well, which is that basic ERM functionality, right? So basically just activating resources and making them available for your users. And I should mention too, and we'll get into this, but it's a discovery layer. So if everyone has some awareness of what discovery is, it allows you to display those Sierra records to your users in addition to ebooks, journal articles, videos, and basically everything else. So basically creating that one-stop shop for your users, but keeping management of resources in different silos, so to speak. And again, worth mentioning, I think, we try to provide choice and flexibility to our customers in different ways. So we have customers that use Summon in conjunction with Alma, right? We have customers that started with Summon years ago and decided for various reasons to move over to Alma. Many of our customers moved from Summon to Primo. Some kept Summon and use Alma in various capacities. So just to point out that there are options, and that's something I hope to uncover here as we go through the presentation, is really just understanding what your needs are so we can provide the best possible options for all of the libraries at WISPALS. Okay, so some key features, and I promise we'll move on from slides here in a moment. But some of the key features, as I mentioned, you get a single interface for library discovery with Summon, right? So it's that front door, that gateway to all of the content you provide access to. And generally, we're talking about the catalog records, so print, books, whatever you catalog today. LibGuides, we have some really nice integrations with LibGuides to help surface those for users. And if you have any other sort of repository content, so if anyone does have any that they wanted to mention, let me know. But typically things from like Content DM, DSpace, and those types of systems. So we can bring it all together into a single interface. The subscribed content is generally the big focus of discovery. So getting granular with those searches, article level content, ebook, chapter level content, and videos. We have a nice integration with Sierra I can show you. So, it allows your users to log into the interface and again, have some of that functionality within Summon. LibGuides, as I mentioned. I'm a big fan of LibGuides, and we have great ways to present those resources. And then kind of everything else that goes along with the experience, right? The linking, Google Scholar integrations, analytics, and so on. So again, if you've went through the Primo demonstration, feature-wise, there's parity, right? So the systems work in different ways, but ultimately a lot of the features are going to be available in both systems. And then the last point, the ERM management, there's different options, and we'll get to that as we go through. Now, how does Summon search, or how does Summon work? Pretty straightforward. I'll show you in a demo, but if anyone's curious on kind of the inner workings, the basic process is user searches, they get results, and then they link to the content, right? Pretty straightforward. On the bottom images, you see basically what the user is searching. So again, if you were in the Primo presentation, you might have heard of CDI. That's our underlying index of records that is searched by both Summon and Primo. And we put your local records in there. We have commercial content, open access content. It's all in that single index, which allows us to do some pretty neat things in terms of relevancy and other kind of features. And here is a more granular look if you're curious about the inner workings. Like I said, we bring all of the content in. You see that in the top row. That goes into our index, which we call CDI, and that interacts with the knowledge base. And the takeaway here is basically, a single-click activation for your resources. You activate, eBook Central, ProQuest Central, whatever the case is, and then that automatically informs Summon what your users have access to in full text when they're searching. And we can discuss specifics as we go through, but another point I'll make is the CDI includes all of that content, but it also includes a lot of linking, right? So direct links to resources. That's really a nice add-on from the CDI. Okay, let me pause here. Is this making sense? I don't know if we need to go deeper or if this is overkill for some of you. So I'll just do a quick pause here to see if there's any questions.
I know that we have some Summon users with among the members. Would you all mind just putting in chat if you are a Summon user, just to kind of give us a better frame of reference, please? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no Summon user. Has anyone used Summon in the past? That would be just curious. So, all right. Well, let's move along here, and we'll take a look at the demo. And I'll just show you some basic things. And if we want to dig in, take a detour, by all means, feel free to interrupt me. All right. So this is a Summon site. I have a demo environment set up here. And I'll show you a few different flavors of this, including some customer sites. The main thing that's really nice about Summon, I think, is it does have a nice responsive interface. So it's going to kind of look and behave properly on all devices. So if you go to the same site on a mobile interface, it'll function properly. And as I'll show you, you can kind of zoom in and zoom out. Now, this is the homepage. In most cases, users are probably never going to see this because we tend to embed a search box in your library homepage. You can do it in a LibGuide, wherever you want. But in this case, we will just start from here. And it's all about that single search box, right? I remember years ago when Discovery was first coming about, and that single search box was the new concept. And at that point in time, we're trying to keep up with Google because Google beat us to the punch, so to speak, with creating that. And now this is just an expectation for users, right? So I'm going to do a search for a broad subject. We're going to do behavioral economics. You'll see off the bat we have library recommendations as well as kind of autocomplete options here. And you'll see here, there's two options. I'll point this out right away. I've got behavioral economics here, a bit more about the topic, as well as below that, this library recommendation. And this is a nice feature of Summon because you can insert your own recommendations that will appear based on what's searched, right? So it's a nice combination of system generated functionality and also librarian initiated functionality. And I'll show you some more examples as we go through this today. But I think that's a really nice feature of Summon as a librarian. So, it serves as a great user facing tool, but, things I tend to hear a lot is that librarians are going to end up using this a lot on behalf of their patrons. So it's equally important that it works for everyone. All right, so we'll do this search. And as I mentioned, I can zoom in and out. So if this is too small for anyone or anyone wants a bigger view, I can do that. I happen to be on a very large monitor here. So I'll zoom in to about 150%, maybe 125. Now, the basic layout, you have the search box at the top. On the left-hand side, you have your facets. In the center, you have your results. On the right-hand side, you have your side panels. Now, I did a broad subject search here, and I've gotten 284,000 results. What am I searching? Well, I'm searching that central discovery index, right? It contains about 5 billion records, but by default, it's going to search only your library's resources. So whatever subscriptions you have, whatever databases you subscribe to, as well as whatever print items you might make available, that's what's being searched by default. On the left-hand side, you have a facet here that says add results beyond the collection, and that's going to search the entire index, right? So by default, what you have access to in full text, but clicking that option will search the entire index. So if you want to allow users to find items you don't have access to, or maybe you want to request via interlibrary loan, that's an option, as well as open access content. Okay. Now, just to review these facets, these are facets, I'm sure everyone is familiar with this concept, right? I can filter by peer reviewed. If I want physical items, I can filter that way. Maybe content type is one of the most common. So I'm looking for journal articles, right? We also have facets for discipline, subject terms. If you did want to narrow by the database, you can do that as well. So there's a lot of options here. This is kind of my medium demo, as I call it. So, and what I mean by that is with the whole interface, you have the option to customize it in a way that makes sense for you and your users. So on the left-hand side, you can have the facets expanded, you can have them collapsed, you can add them, you can remove them. So I have another demo site. I have basically everything turned on, which might be for more advanced researchers. Here, I try to maintain that middle ground of usability and content, right? So facets you can filter in different ways, disciplines, subject terms, and so on. Now on the right-hand side, you have a side panel. And here you can basically put whatever you want. So again, it's a combination of system-generated content like topics will present to users. Bit more about it, we pull information from Wikipedia or Encyclopedia Britannica and a few other sources. Remote access help, right? Anything you want to put in front of the user, you can do that here. And you could even present resources here. I have a Alexander Street collection of the human rights study. So if you want to promote new resources, you have a lot of options for embedding content here on the side. Now in the results, in the top, you'll notice I have what we call a best bet. And this is something I added manually, right? So if based on my search, I'm getting a little bit of information. So we have a way you can basically upload a spreadsheet of keywords if you want. So if you want to guide users to kind of specific content or options, you have the ability to add things like this at the top of the screen. Now, going through some of the results. Oh, we got a question. Great. Catherine.
Yeah,
Good question. So on the initial results, can the librarians designate what kind of resources appear first before applying facets? For instance, books first or articles first? Yeah, great question. So you have a lot of ways to kind of, pre-scope the search for users. And, that could be a matter of here at the top, we have what we call scopes. This is a relatively new feature. You probably saw us in Primo. So you can have users, you can create these scopes for like books, journal articles here at the top. What I see more commonly as an option, if I go to this screen, which I'll come back to, I created a basic tabbed view. So it's really easy to create widgets like these to have the user kind of select in advance what they're searching. And basically, if I select this journal article search and do the same search, it's just going to be, oh, sorry, this is an old form here that is not secure. But it'll be pre-filtered by the journal article, right? So I basically selected this in advance. So that's how we tend to do it with terms of pre-filtering the results.
Stephen, there's a follow-up question in chat as well.
Sure, all of the content type filter options. Sure. So there are a lot of content types. And just scrolling down, so yeah, I mean, I think journal article, ebook are going to be the most common, right? But we have book chapters, newspapers, paper, book, ebook, conference proceeding, dissertations. We have a list online I could show you. I've never found a situation where we didn't have enough content types. So there's an option there. And if you're curious, when you load your catalog records, we do a basic mapping of your records to the content types. Oh, even without, okay, so Catherine, even without scopes, I meant the original 170,000. And for instance, definition first or books first. Okay, yeah, so good question. Let me move this over. So you'll see here at the top, by default, results are sorted by relevance, right? So that's our kind of proprietary relevance algorithm we use. And it's based on a number of factors, such as, the keywords, where they're searched, like where those terms are found, where, different fields they match on, and so on. We do prioritize local content. So if, all things considered equal, we will boost your local catalog records above other items. But by default, it's relevance ranking, but you can change here, as you see, to date, author, and title to sort them. So it's not as related to content type. Like, content type is one component of the relevancy ranking, but it's not, books display first and then kind of journals. It's more related to the terms that are searched and how they appear in the result. I will say, again, I can send you the link on exactly how the relevancy works if you're curious. That's another, this question comes up from time to time as well. And if you looked at the Primo demonstration, you'd see that you have a lot more control at a granular level of how the relevancy works. So with some, you're more or less limited to how it works out of the box, but in our experience, it strikes that balance of helping users find what they're looking for if they're doing a known item search, but also kind of balancing that discovery aspect. So we've made a few revisions over the years, and it works pretty well from what I see. I mean, you'll see we have 170,000 results here. And if I just scroll down, you can configure how many results you want to appear at a given time, and it'll just kind of show 25 and it continues to load. But in our experience, users rarely go beyond the first page of results. So, it makes relevancy more important, but again, different types of users can search differently. So, sorry, Catherine, that was a long answer. Hopefully that gave you some context here. But if there's anything else, let me know. Okay. Well, I did a search here. Again, it was a basic search. I did a filter on journal articles, and I'm looking at the results. So, again, you'll see where behavioral economics is highlighted in the different terms here. We have a variety of options here. We've added what we call glanceability. So users can see at a glance, is it peer-reviewed? What type of article is it? Is it a review article? Is it original research? You have quick options. So if you want to save citations, that's handled with this bookmark option, right? So I saved 3 items and it sends them to my saved items folder, which is kind of like a shopping cart. And you can export items to a variety of formats if you're using any citation software, email them, get a print out, different citation formats, as you might expect. You can also get a permalink. I really like this feature. This comes in handy a lot if you need to send somebody a specific citation. You can always get that link. You can get the specific, again, the citation here for an individual item, email it, as well as export it with these quick options. You'll also notice some other details on the screen, which I have turned on, and I'll zoom in for everyone in case you're hunched over your laptop. You'll see the citations here. This is a really cool feature, and you might have seen this in Primo as well. But these are citation trails. So this is, again, some of the nice things we can do with the central discovery index. We can explore these connections between articles. So I'm looking at one article, I want to see what works that author has cited in their own work. And it's a two-way street, right? So you can see cited by and cited within. And a nice way to dig into the research. I know when I was in college, we were still, reading print items, writing down the citations at the end of the article, and then hunting around the library and generally in print finding these things. So certainly a lot easier for users. But again, nice way to kind of dig down into the research. You have to be logged in to use the save feature. I'll come back to that in a moment. That's a good question. The short answer is no, but I'll show you the options regarding logging in a moment. All right, so the citation trails, those show the formal connections between articles. You could also turn on the BX recommender, which shows kind of informal recommendations, right? So here on the right-hand side, I have related articles. These are based on usage. So users that looked at this article also looked at these, but not necessarily related in terms of citations. With Web Science citation counts, so you can display these if useful. If you're not familiar with this is kind of a standard in the industry for giving a sense of how impactful journal articles are, how highly they've been cited. And similarly, you also have the altmetrics badge here. So these kind of operate in the same type of idea. They're free to turn on if you want, and can give users a good sense of, is this authoritative? How is it being used? Where is it being mentioned in various arenas? So some nice plugins that can, again, they're easy to turn on or off. If it's, your user, this isn't going to matter to your users, you do not have to have them turned on. Now, actually accessing the result, right? So here, if I tap the quick look option, yeah. Oh, sorry. I don't know if there was a question or just some feedback there. The quick look, I can see everything about the article quickly and easily. The abstract, all of the subject terms, they're all hyperlinked, right? So if a user starts with, I did a search for behavioral economics and I can see, okay, maybe I'm actually looking for social comparison theory. It'll automatically change my search to those subjects. And I have all of the relevant details here as well. And at the top, this is a nice way to cycle through the results as well. So I can link to an item from here, review the different items without having to scroll. Now, when I click a result, I'll go to the item. Okay, and we use a variety of linking technologies here with Summon. So when I click result, this is going to Elsevier, right? Science Direct. One point I always like to make with regards to content linking and Summon and Primo is we're completely content neutral. So we don't prioritize any result or content based on the vendor. We know through who you have access to. So this article from Ecological Economics, we have access through Elsevier. That's where you're going to link. And as you see, it's going straight to the article. We have a variety of technologies we use to link directly to the content. So if anyone here has managed a link resolver in the past, that's truly, it's completely integrated with Summon. So in some cases, you are going to use the link resolver, but more and more, we're simply relying on direct links to the items, which is great for both librarians and users. I can tell you, I spent a number of years working in tech support, when link resolvers were still new technology. And I spent a lot of time figuring out why links did not work. So I can say this has been one of the great improvements in technology over the years. So you're seeing more and more direct links to the PDF, to the full text in different ways. So really reliable technology. And again, in most cases, users are going to bypass the link resolver altogether. So I'm just clicking a few results and you're seeing, I'm going to different vendors. This one's ProQuest, the last one was ProQuest. If you have access to two vendors for an item, you can configure which one you want to link to, or which is prioritized. So for instance, if you have access through ProQuest, but it's also available through open access, you'd rather go to your subscription content first, you can configure those things. But it's not anything you have to configure because by default, it'll just kind of take the best link. But as you see, I clicked on a variety of links and they were all direct. Okay, so that was a basic search. You can do advanced searching. like I always like to say that I think Summon is a great interface for all different types of users. So if you're doing very basic initial research, you're a freshman in college or at the technical college, and you're new to the world of doing research, this is a great straightforward interface. Allows you to kind of do a search and refine it and figure out your exact search terms. You can also do Boolean advanced searching quite easily if you want to search specific fields. Wildcards. We support kind of all of the standard search options you might consider here. This is the advanced search field, which you can easily access. Now, regarding logging in, so you notice I didn't log in at any point here. And again, this is one of the big differences between Alma Primo and Summon. With Primo, you are basically logging into Alma where the user data is stored. But Summon doesn't have anything to kind of log into inherently. So you don't have to log in. Users can search freely without authenticating, and they would then be prompted to authenticate typically when they click a result. So here I click this item. If I hadn't already logged in through your proxy, that's when I would be prompted to log in. Okay, so it's really just geared towards accessing resources versus kind of anything personalized to the login experience. If you want to save searches, these are stored temporarily. So I haven't logged in, and you'll see here this is a temporary folder. So they'll be cleared out. So if you have open computers in your labs or anything like that, users can save, export data, but then when the session is over, this will be cleared out. Now you do have the option to log into save items, and you'll see here you can save searches with a Google login or a Microsoft login. So if you do want to provide this option, you can do it. It might be useful just for librarians as well if you're doing reference interviews or need to save kind of advanced searches you want to send along to users. This can be a nice tool. But now that I've logged in, I can see my saved searches here at the top, right? So I can always save this search now, and it'll save just a basic behavioral economics search. And if I go to my saved, you'll see I have a number of examples here. So you can kind of rename them here. Towards the bottom, I did one on solar research, and if I click that, you'll see I have quite a nested advanced search here with a variety of different terms, parentheses, and so on, as well as the facets being selected. So this will save everything here. So if I want to come back to a search that I've done, see if there's new items, I can certainly do that. I can also get an RSS feed if you're so inclined. So here's an example of an advanced search as well as kind of that saved search option. One other thing I wanted to show too, and just to kind of reiterate this, I do a search for family history, and I put it in quotes so I can kind of keep those terms together. I just wanted to point out that you see a different view on the right. So you can display content in the side panel based on the keywords that are searched as well. So things can be persistent there. Or if you want to promote something, in this case, like Heritage Quest, right? We don't have Heritage Quest indexed in Summon. You might imagine what the results that would look like if we indexed all of this genealogical data, but still users might be searching for this. So if you're getting common searches in your library or anything you want to promote, you can promote in this way as well. So maybe only appears when things are searched. I'll show you a few other examples. I mentioned the libguides integration, and I think this is it's a nice feature, and you can do this in Primo as well. So again, it's not exclusive to Summon, but basically the process is, we get your URL for your libguides, and we can basically import them and index them in Summon. And here's one of our customers I like to use as an example, Community College. They haven't indexed their print records. They're using it solely for discovery. But they did index their libguides, and you'll see here I did a basic search for biology, and you'll see the first result is this biology libguide. So again, really a nice way to find this relevant information. And when I click to it, it's just going to lead me to their libguides page. So I thought I'd mention that. Just from perusing your various library websites, I saw LibGuides, a lot of good content in there. I say one of the great things about my job is I get to spend a lot of time looking at library websites, which is fun for me. So that's one of the LibGuide integrations. We also have others related to managing the A to Z list via API. And we've also have a new database search, which I can show you. The other things I'll
Steven,
note. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry to interrupt,
please.
but before you
No,
jump, there's a quick question in chat, if you don't mind taking a look at it.
Yeah, from Kim. So you have the need to click to check the availability of printed books. Excuse me, printed books. So that information cannot be brought into Summon. No, it can be. I'll show you. In a moment, we'll take a look at some print examples here. So I'll show you how that works in Summon as well. Good question, though. But yeah, moving on. And you'll also see kind of they embedded their search box here in a different way. You can also use this link at the top to embed your library chat. So if you're using libchat or I know there's a few different services, but really easy to integrate with those. Now here's an example from another customer, another community college. They're using the same type of chat, and here they've got the database finder. So if you can embed this, and this pulls it from LibGuides. So if you're managing your list of databases in LibGuides, it can automatically search that content, right? So it's kind of a nice thing to embed in the side panel. If you have users that prefer to go to to a database directly. And they also have done a thing here, which I like. They just kind of put a link of the hot topics here on the right-hand side. So these are actually their LibGuides, but just kind of show you can embed different content in different ways here in the side panel. This customer also has their catalog records indexed. So you can see here, they are displaying the availability, right? And also they use synthetics, so they have some additional content displaying here. Now, regarding that status, let me go to my next demo site. Okay, I see another question from Catherine. I'll circle back to that. But regarding the catalog availability, so here is another demo site, and this is with the Sierra integration. Now, you don't have to integrate Sierra, right? So there are some things to sort out with regards to your authentication, but if you want to, you can integrate with Sierra so that users can log in and reserve items. But you can also just index your catalog records without going through that process if you want. And here you'll see the availability that displays in Summon. The way we do this is we pull this in real time from your catalog. So basically, we load your records in the index so they're searchable based on all of that criteria that's in the record. And then we go in addition to the catalog to retrieve the availability in real time. So it's not something that requires an update process. So if somebody checks this item out, the next call that we send, it would show this checked out or whatever. And here you can see this is one of the main differences from if you were to integrate Sierra. You can actually do the requesting in this page, right? So there's two options. You can load your catalog records and a user would just simply link out to your catalog to actually do the requesting. That integration brings this request option into the interface here, along with the library card, right? So here I'm actually logged in through the Sierra account and I can see if I have items checked out or not. So that's what that Sierra integration would do for you and your users. Basically being able to use this as the interface to log in, check out resources, renew them, and so on. But it's optional, not a requirement to integrate in that way. If users on a mobile device, where do the side panels display? So good question. They kind of look like this. So if I minimize the window here and we zoom out, it'll look more like this. Let me go back to this one, right? So you see we've kind of condensed everything into a single view, and the filters display here at the top. So it basically, depending on the size of the screen, it'll adjust accordingly. So it's not until you get to kind of a desktop view or you get those side panels, the mobile view is going to be focused just on the result set here. So it's a really nice interface for using on mobile. I use it myself, and I could present the phone if you want to see it, but it's basically as I showed you. Okay. Let's see a few other things. Okay, so yeah, this is the Sierra integration, as I mentioned. A nice option again to kind of bring in that content. And I thought I'd show you one more example, and this is from Ball State. And they are actually using Summon with Alma. So they are Alma users, and they have, again, they decided to stick with Summon because they've been customers for a long time. They like the interface. So on the back end, they're using Alma, and they get some additional functionality like the ability to log in, right? As well as managing course reserves. So if course reserves were something you were interested in presenting, that would show something like this. So you get another interface. And the main difference too, if you use Summon with Alma, is that you're actually using Alma for obviously all the management, but also the link resolver would be on the Alma side. All right, let me move. Sorry, I always say this, but I'm struggling with the Zoom search bar here, which I've now moved. Regarding the link resolver, so if, again, if you've looked at Alma and Primo, you would see how that's kind of truly completely integrated into the system. Okay. Is course reserve searching course numbers, faculty names, an option with Sierra and Summon? Good question. Potentially. We don't have the formal, like what you're seeing here with the course reserve section, right? This is pulling from Alma in this case because the course reserves are managed in Alma. So this type of interface where it's specifically devoted to course reserves, or if you recall what you can see in Primo, where you can get a devoted view specifically for course reserves with associated filters, that's not available, but there might be options depending on what those records look like and if they're sent. So I'm happy to kind of look into that and discuss. It's not a scenario I've encountered. And to be honest, I'm just not familiar with how the course reserves work in Sierra, but it could be possible if they're records that could be exported, but don't hold me to that. So I'll make a follow-up note for you, Katie, and try to get you some better answers than that.
Katie, can you respond like how you're managing course reserves right now?
Yes, hi. So we currently have Sierra with Encore, and Encore has the ability as our OPAC layer to, we're able to pull up what books are on reserve for a particular course by the course name, by the course number, by the instructor. And so just hoping that that capability could be retained.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the context. There's always options, right? So let me, I'll create a follow-up note for that and follow up with some better answers than what I've provided you here. So yeah, and then when it comes to the link resolver, we, like I said, if you're using Alma, we'd use the Alma page, or if not, we bundle it with 360 Link, which if anyone has used this in the past, it's been around quite a while. So one of the early link resolvers that was on the market, in addition to SFX, if you're familiar with that. And it's a link resolver, right? So like I said, more and more we're less reliant on open URL link resolving. So if anyone is familiar with that term, basically, what open URL is, you're just essentially making a guess, right? So you're sending the metadata in a particular format and then hoping that matches up with whatever the vendor has on their side. But yeah, more and more we actually have just direct links that we use the index for. So we're less and less reliant on open URL technology. However, it is still there. And depending on the vendor, we still might use that to link. But we have a lot of great things built into the link resolver now, like cross-ref lookup. So you can search by the DOI and will automatically import the metadata. Google Scholar integration. So if somebody's searching for Google Scholar, they can see your holdings and link to them, as well as providing this interface, right? So if you're using, you could use it for an interlibrary loan request, or if you're entering direct citations. If you work with users or faculty perhaps who want to search a specific citation, right? Type in a PMID, we can automatically look that up and connect the user to the full text. All right, so it's also the page where somebody doesn't find something, right? They might end up at this page and you can provide other options like search the catalog, request the item, get help from the librarian. So I think of this in terms of the linking technology, but also that real estate you can use when users aren't finding what they need. It's all about connecting the user to the item, right? So that's what you get with 360 Link. And there's also some nice open access lookup options. So if you don't have something in your collection and a user ends at this page, we'll automatically look up if an open access version is available via, we have two different technologies we use. So here you see two different links that are turned on. So the user is still getting to the item, even if you don't subscribe to it. Okay, any questions about link resolving, linking in general, or anything of that nature? Okay. Well, I thought we'd move on now and take a look at administration of Summon. Now, I know everyone's favorite thing to see in a demo are list of menus, right? But it's there's a lot showing on the screen. But the takeaway is that it's all really easy to use, right? So if you want to make a change to the Summon interface, you're really empowered to do that. You don't need to write any code or really know how to do anything other than take a few clicks here. So you'll see some examples. What displays on the top? Who does somebody contact if they click that feedback option, right? And then here it's like, do you want the enhanced did you mean option? Do you want to suggest queries? Right? Basic options. And then when you click save, they go live in a couple of minutes. So what's nice about Summon is that it's really great out of the box. And during implementation, we tend to set up kind of the default options that seem to work for most customers. But you can start simple, and then as you see users engaging with it, you get feedback, you can come in here and make changes to the interface and not have to like reinvent the wheel, right? So that's one thing I really like about Summon. It's easy to use in that regard. Some other options here, if I go on the left-hand side, if you want to change the facets, I talked about this. You can pick which ones you want to display and which ones you don't want to display. Things like the author facet. There's some discussion on whether or not author should be a facet. We've added it in recent years. I don't think it's the most useful way to filter items, but you could turn on all of these if you wanted. So at the beginning, I mentioned the demo I was showing you is kind of that medium version. But if you want to provide all of these options, you can certainly drag them all over. But as you can see, some might be more highly used than others. let's see what else. So yeah, things like the alt metrics, like I said, you can turn on or off. Basic configuration, customization, right? So this is where you would configure the look and the feel of the site. You'll see here, I've kept basically most of this as default. I changed the header background color here, just entered that code there in the center. But otherwise, you can have a lot of easy control over the interface regards to color scheme and so on. Now, if you did want to do anything more in depth to change the interface, you do have that ability. That requires using some custom JavaScript. And basically, you can embed any other CSS types of changes within the JavaScript file that you would link here. So we have some customers that use this, but certainly not a requirement to make basic changes to the logo, colors, and so on. But yeah, like I said, these options are all pretty straightforward. And in my experience, it's easier for libraries to start with kind of just the default site, start playing with it, using it, see what makes sense to you. And then if you need to make changes, go ahead and make them. You can also change the text of anything that displays, right? This is something that I hear frequently as well. Like if sorry, I got to refresh this page. So if you're looking at, the site, for instance, and you say, okay, refine your search, that's clear. But if you wanted to change the text for anything that displays the label, you have the ability to do that as well. So something like this, add results beyond the library's collection. If you wanted to change that to say, search for results not available in full text or something, you could do that. And this is done with the translation menu, right? So, do you want to change it to books or ebooks, right? So it's really easy to configure how things will display in the interface. Okay, pages. These are the custom sections I mentioned. So if I go here at the top to the custom panel sections, this is where you can add your various side panels. So if you wanted to embed LibGuide links, or I showed you this Heritage Quest tile, it's just a matter of entering text. You can include images and links here. So it's really straightforward as far as what this goes. So here I'm searching for family history, genealogy. If I want to add another tag, I could search for it and it would display. If I wanted this to display, no matter what is searched, I could just add that persistent option. So it's really easy to create these new sections, right? You just say test, here is a test, and I want this to display no matter what, or only when tags are searched. I click save, and I added that section, right? And then it shows up here at the bottom. And if I needed to make changes or add, tags or whatever. So it's a nice feature. Libraries use this for things like library hours or any sort of FAQs that you get. I'll show you the usage data in a minute, but you'll actually see common searches that users are making. So it'll give you some insight into how users perceive the interface and things they might be searching for, and how you might want to put in some custom content. And you can do a bulk import as well. So if you have a like a spreadsheet, you could create a spreadsheet of a bunch of different content if you want to help surface it in different ways. So, so a nice feature I always like to point out, just as a librarian myself. I'll show you the mapping page as well. So if you're curious what happens to your MARC records when you load them, it's a really straightforward process. Basically, you export your MARC records, you put them in an FTP folder, and then we pull them in and index them for discovery. So once it's set up, it's usually libraries will set up a cron job, right, as they're called. So you're automatically sending the records as frequently as you need. We have some big libraries who would send them like every day, send updates. Some are sending them once a week, once a month, a few times a year. So we kind of see the full spectrum of updates. But basically, as you can see here, we just map the various fields to display and summon. And if you ever need to make a change, you're just changing the mapping. So you're not changing your mark records on your end to display in any way. You just change the mapping. In most cases, the default mapping that we set up works very well for most libraries. If there ever is something that needs to be changed, it usually comes in with the content type. What tends to happen is there might be some unique fields used for like a small set of records that you won't even be aware of until you see them in Summon. And you're like, oh, okay, we need to update that mapping. So really straightforward to make those changes. And then similarly, you can use library locations too, which usually need to be customized as they're specific to the library. But all in all, in a straightforward kind of process. And again, if you're thinking kind of high level, big picture, you're still using Sierra. Everything you would do on the cataloging side would occur there, of course. And again, one of the major differences between Alma, Primo, and Summon, there is an update process, right? So you're sending the records, they do have to be processed and indexed. So it does take, usually 24 hours or less, but it's not an instant update that you would get in Alma, right? So that's one of the main changes just in regards to mark records. Let's see what else. So we'll take a look at the usage. So if you've seen any demos with Ex Libris before, we use Oracle Analytics Server for usage data. So it's going to be very similar to what you'd see in Primo, probably not as robust because just due to the nature of how things work, right? You're going to get, a clear view of how users interact with Summon, but there's not going to be any kind of, it's analytics aren't going to be connected to anything else, right? So it's exclusively what's happening in this interface. So what I mean by that is if you're looking at specific user behavior, how do different types of users engage with the site? What does this mean for collection development? What does it mean, for mark records? Within Alma, you have the ability to kind of see everything and how everything works together. The usage data in Summon, of course, is just going to be what happens here. So hopefully that makes sense if you're kind of comparing and contrasting in your mind. But still, it's a nice interface, out of the box dashboards here, so you can see how many basic searches, how many times users are faceting. And you get a nice chart over time. You get to see the facet usage. And this is my demo site, so it's probably essentially me clicking on these things, but you can see, okay, what are users clicking on? Books, ebooks? Are they clicking that peer-reviewed status and so on? So as I mentioned, Summon is a nice, easy to use tool, so you can put it out there for users, check the usage, see what's resonating, what's making sense, and then you can make changes to the interface accordingly, right? So, hey, nobody's clicking any of these facets, maybe we should remove them from view. Sessions, right? So you can see the number of sessions and kind of the duration of minutes. So you can see how frequently are users coming here. You can see popular searches. So you can see I do a variety of different searches for behavioral economics and other things that show up here. So you'll get a good view of what's coming up in the searches by your users. And as I mentioned, you might see things like you'll see how users actually perceive the interface, right? So you tend to see like long questions people ask, and you'll see the number of results they're getting. So if you need to add a best bet or kind of tweak something, you can help users find things that way, as well as zero result searches. So if things people search for and they don't get any results, that's recorded here. So some nice insight. If you can also integrate with Google Analytics if you've ever used that. It's just a matter of adding the Google Analytics code, and that'll give you some additional data. But all in all, it's nice, straightforward. You get a sense of how the site's being used. We do have data regarding which vendors are being linked to. So you have the summon quick links option here. And if you wanted to create your own report, you can do that. This might look familiar to you if you've seen this, but you can see the number of clicks by database or provider, right? It's just a drag and drop thing here. And when I click the results at the top, I can see, okay, which vendors are being used the most from Summon. So you can see ACM Digital Library, Alexander Street. And again, these will be specific to your subscriptions. Okay, so that's usage. Let me pause there and see where we're at.
I was going to ask if there are any reports that are very unique to your circumstances that you all are doing right now.
Yeah, that's a good question. Is that anything you're doing with analytics or you would like to do in the world? Yeah.
No report lovers here.
I'll say, yeah. Okay, so for iPads, sure. Yeah, so yeah, here's what I'll say broadly about analytics is I think Alma is essentially unmatched when it comes to getting data and understanding everything you do at your library. So what you can get with 360 is definitely going to be less, right? But the iPad's data, you can certainly get your basic holdings information, right? So I think iPads is like number of books, right? Number of journals. It's that kind of data. You can get that basic data, but like I said, the expanse of things you could conceivably do with data and analytics and reporting, Alma's going to give you all of that deep insight to, I guess, do a lot of different things. That's kind of how I'd put it. If using 360, it's more basic, right? It's kind of just the basic things that are happening in the interface. So it's not quite as smart, I guess, is how I would say it. And I say that as somebody who's worked with these systems for many years. I have a deep affection for Summon as well as Alman Primo. So it's just kind of a different by nature, I guess. And regarding analytics, if we want to go more in depth, I'm happy to. But it's one of those areas like you can talk I could talk for an hour about it. I could talk for 5 minutes about it. So we won't go too in depth here. But yeah, we don't currently have a discovery service in which to run reports. I mean, that's a lot of libraries are in that situation, and that's one of the values, right, of using a system like Summon or Alma or Primo is creating that single interface. So then you're starting to get some of that data and tracking it. So I showed you some of the basic things of Summon that are included in the out-of-the-box analytics. You're going to see, how users are searching it, what they're clicking on, what they're not clicking on, what they're searching for. So you're going to get some of that data. And as I mentioned, if you want to get a little deeper, it's really easy to embed Google Analytics. If you've never thought about it or looked at it, I always advise customers, like if you're not sure where to start, you can create a Google Analytics account for free, and you just embed the code in there. And then if you do want some additional data, that you'll have it there for you. And that treats it more like, it's kind of more like a website type of data, but at any rate, there's a lot of options, and I think it's a good starting place if you at least have kind of a single view for users to go to. Otherwise, it's really challenging to understand who's clicking on what if you've got, you know, a number of interfaces. So at any rate, so management. So this is the back end of Summon, and everyone, again, forgive me for repeating it, but if you've seen Alma, you kind of saw like the full picture, right? And you know, Alma as a platform, again, can do, you just think end-to-end processes. So if you're looking at, you know, making improvements with the acquisitions process of how purchasing is done, how selection is done, integrating with finance systems, with APIs, that's kind of in the Alma realm. What if you're going just the Summon standalone route, it's really just about e-resources and activating e-resources. That's kind of basically what it does. So again, if you think of that full spectrum of the e-resource process from, you know, trialing, selection, purchasing, and so on, Summon is just kind of that middle piece of just activating resources. So that said, that's what it does. It's not going to do kind of anything more for you, but it's still a, you know, a really nice option if you're just looking at that piece of it. So good.
Stephen, do you want to pop over to chat for
Yeah,
a quick question?
yeah, from Katie.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for the question. With Summon in 360, can we download a report of all e-serials itemized by title and ISSN that are findable through Summon, our database titles, et cetera? Yes, you can. So I'll show you a few things in this interface, and again, I think it goes like, you know, not to harp on this point too much, but you've seen the Alma interface. That's like a new modern thing, and you're seeing something different here. I understand that this is looks a little more old school, I think is safe to say. So it's more basic functionality here. At the top of the screen, you have the e-catalog. This is where you search the knowledge base. So basically, you search for a journal title, you can search for a book or a database or provider and see the results. And if I go to my data management, let me log in again because this has been open for a while, you'll see all of the databases you subscribe to, right? So this is what I have activated in the demo profile. It's a basic hierarchy of provider, database, title. The other aspect too is you don't have access to the underlying MARC records. If you do want them, it requires a process where we would, it's another service where we basically send you MARC records to load somewhere else. So there are MARC records underlying the content here, but you're not working with MARC records in any capacity in this interface. The process is really straightforward. Like if you're activating a resource, you mark it as subscribed, right? And that indicates it's active in your collection. After an update process, this will inform Summon what users are searching. So Summon doesn't search individual databases, just like Primo doesn't. It's searching the index. And when you've subscribed to a title, it basically informs Summon, these are the titles you have access to. This is the content you should be searching. So if you subscribe to an entire package, it's as simple as just marking it as subscribed. Or if you need to subscribe a subset of titles, or you want to add custom coverage dates, you can edit them individually or do a spreadsheet upload, right? So a lot of times vendors will send you, here's the list of your titles you have access to. You can go and upload those if you want. But in most cases, like I said, if you subscribe to a database package, it's better just to add, Gale one file agriculture or whatever it is, and then use our knowledge base because we get that data from vendors and we keep it up to date. And we also do things like normalization, right? So if there's variant ISSNs, we're kind of managing all of that on the back end. You get basic reporting. So to answer your question, Katie, we have a data on demand report. So basically you can generate a report of journals, books, or all content, and it'll give you a kind of a long list of your data in a CSV file. Takes a while for it to run, right? That's another aspect of kind of a more legacy-oriented system is it's simply not as fast. So I don't have a problem saying that as well. And you have some basic other management reports. So some really kind of basic things regarding your resources, but again, specific to the e-resources that you would make available. So you can get an export of those, and you can get data summary, right? So you can see at a glance how many titles. So this will show you, I think, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know the specifics of all the IPEDS type data, but I know this is kind of part of it. So this is just a snapshot of how many holdings you might have based on these criteria. And again, you can only manage, it's only books, ebooks, e-journals, and videos that are managed in the knowledge base here. So anything with a different content type would have to come from somewhere else, Sierra or wherever. Okay, let me pause there. Hopefully that answered the questions. All right, anything else you might want to see, or anything that's on your mind based on what we've looked at so far? You can search for a specific journal title. Yeah, you can. So yeah, there's a few different ways to do this, right? So generally in this demo environment, I don't have journal records turned on, right? So it's only searching the article level content. But you also get, with Summon, you get the basic A to Z list, right? So this is the A to Z list, and this is kind of where it all started, right? When I first started with the company, where I was working with libraries making the shift from print to electronic, and the A to Z list being online was new at the time when I started. So that seems like a really long time ago, right? But you get this interface as well, and this is the basic journal and book search. So if I'm looking for JAMA, I could come here, and this is just searching kind of the higher level, right? So Summon, Discovery, searching the more granular level content, and the A to Z list is here as well. So you can use this interface if you want. As I mentioned, I embedded a search box here as an example. And then you can have user search within. This would bring, to the Summon search if I want to search inside the journal. But you also have the ability to basically load this kind of content, like just the journal level records. We can load that for you into Summon if you want. So then it'd be discoverable in the same search here. So if I were to search for JAMA and I want to get the journal record, it could show up here. And let me know, Katie, if I over answered that or did not answer the question. Okay, Ellen, so yeah, user sign-in authentication. So a good question. So yeah, again, by default, you don't need to log into Search Summon, right? That's how most customers approach this. I have the search open, and when I click on a result, if I haven't logged in, I would be prompted to log in, right? So here I'm not actually logged in to this ProQuest site, so I don't have access to it. What we do typically is, if you're using a proxy, are we using? I looked at some of your websites. It looks like a few different authentications the various libraries are using, but if you're using something like Easy Proxy, we basically just automatically add that to your URLs. So if a user hasn't logged in yet, they will be prompted to log in when they click a result, and authentication is required. Now, if you're going the route of integrating with Sierra and you're using something like CAS or SAML, we can support that process, that it does require kind of a, an implementation to set that up. And then you can get into the specifics of which version of Sierra authentication are you using and so on. But yeah, in most cases, libraries just activate their proxy, and that's what is authenticating, because there's nothing inherent to log into in Summon, right? There's no user account built into this. So that's kind of, one of the main points. And as I showed you, you do have the ability to save searches, and that uses just a Google or Microsoft login. So that's just specific to Summon that you can enable these options. So if you're using a Gmail account or an Outlook account, you can log in with that. And that is used just to save searches. It's not connected to the library account in any way. So hopefully that answers your question, Ellen, and I'll and forgive me if it was too much information. As you can see, I have the habit of giving the long answer on such things. Training and support specific to Summon 360. Good question. So the process is pretty simple to implement. As I mentioned, you can load your catalog records, you can load libguides. That's all a pretty straightforward process. We give you some forms to fill out, and we load that data. We activate the site for you, make it live, and then allow you to start working with it. So included in that process, we give you some basic training. We have online videos and great documentation to kind of, get you started. Let me see here. I go back in here. Let's log in. So you can go to our Knowledge Center and just go to Summon. And we have, great documentation here. So, we get you up and running. We activate the site. When we turn everything on for you, like I said, we generally use our default options that work well for most customers. And then it's a combination of, of working with a project manager to get you up and running, who can answer your questions while you're in that implementation phase. And then afterwards, you can go through other self-training or submit questions for support as needed. So if you've ever worked with Ex Libris, we have, great support that's easy to contact for all of our products. And yeah, it's I think fun and easy to work with. And regarding the working on the back end, we do some basic training as part of the implementation process. And I always like to say I could show you like the broad strokes in like 30 minutes, right? So the basic stuff of just activating resources can be done quite easily. And then there's kind of that, some other more advanced functionality that it's straightforward to use, but it's more of a, you need to know how to do it when you need to do it kind of thing. That's how I say, like, oh, I need usage data. How do I go do that? So that's a great option, just to come in here and then find the Knowledge Center. So yeah, so again, kind of a long answer, but it's a straightforward process, can be implemented quickly. We say, generally 4 to 6 weeks process, depending on various factors. If you're integrating with Sierra, that might take longer. Your ability to export records from Sierra, what that looks like. So, but generally 4 to 6 weeks might be a good option. And again, just for demonstration purposes, we have a training items here. So you can go through this self-paced. If you have new staff that comes on, spend some quality time here. And we have videos and everything else. So yeah, combination of live person and on-demand training as needed. Okay. Yeah, so hopefully that answered your questions, Katie. Thanks for asking, and hopefully you can take away that it is easy system to use. I know I showed you a lot of different screens. I mentioned a lot of things, but like I said, we have a lot of libraries that use Summon, big and small. So I've worked with very small libraries with only a few librarians working there who are able to manage this day to day. And it's not something that requires a lot of ongoing maintenance, but as is the case with most things, I think the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So great. Yeah, Catherine, great question. Google Scholar, how is it connected? Well, basically, this is a function of 360 Link. And what we do is upload a holdings file to Google Scholar. And you basically just enable that, right? So we'll upload your holdings to Google Scholar. And then if you go to Google Scholar, basically what it allows you to do is, let me scroll in. You see how you have these links on the side? We can present links to your library based on those holdings. So let me see here. It's been a while since I've gone here. So library links, I don't know if I have a demo site, but the point is, you can search for your library here. Maybe Duke has one, right? So yeah, Duke used this in the past. So you basically just enable your library here and click, I'll just add both of these. And then when you search for a result in Google Scholar, you get a link like this, right? So it says get it at Duke, and then you can link to your library's full text holdings. Part of the Google Scholar integration, you can also add your IP addresses. So if a user is on campus and they search Google Scholar, they can see these by default without having to enable them in the way that I just did. So again, it's a nice way to kind of bring things together. We know that users have different starting points. They find your library in different ways. And Summon and 360, again, can be these sort of the glue that kind of keeps everything together. That's how I view it. So yeah, Google Scholar.
And also a quick thing to chime in here about our resources. Everything within the Ex Libris community is open, accessible. There are, I should get on video because I know we're close to stopping, sorry. Again, open access, completely available. There's no codes to enter. There are no paywalls. We want you to be able to view everything when you need it in your time frame. As for Alma Primo, the more contemporary option that we talked about last month, and Stephen has referenced here, we have, I can't even tell you, and Stephen, you might know how many APIs that are used literally on a daily basis. It's really an incredible amount that are shared among different members. So you don't have to invent the wheel from the beginning. You've got the resources of the Alma community to work with, but certainly allowing a lot more flexibility with that combination of Alma Primo coming full circle.
Yeah, well, I know we're at the end of our time. If there's any last questions or anything anyone's curious about, feel free to let us know. I have one follow-up item for Katie with course reserves. But if anything comes up after the fact, if you're, in bed tonight and thinking about all of the wonderful options, like, oh, I should have asked, X, Y, and Z while I had the chance. So feel free to follow up. Like I said, we love talking with librarians about libraries. So any questions you have, trying to find the best fit for all of you, we're here to help. So just feel free to let us know. I'm happy to jump on a call with anyone too. If you're like, hey, could I take 30 minutes of your time to ask about whatever? Always happy to do that as well. So hopefully this was useful for everyone, gave a good overview.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. If we do have questions, we will send them via email, and yeah, so thank you very much for today. We really appreciate it. So have a great one.
We're grateful for your time, everyone. Thank you so much, and look forward to reconnecting at some point in the near future to hear what your next steps are. So thank you again.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.